Hey everybody. So I just completed about 36 hours of dry fasting, and I didn't end up dead like the two other people I know who died of dry fasting in the last few years. I haven't so much been totally against dry fasting that I've been very cautious about it, about recommending it or doing it. And so if you know two people that have died from it, you have to kind of think, first of all, is it even a good therapy? And if it is, then what were those people doing wrong, right? I haven't fully answered that second question yet, but so the first guy, he was here around 5 years ago in Ecuador, and he left and went to some other places, eventually ended up in Africa, where he died from dry fasting. Now, the doctors thought that maybe he perhaps had malaria, but after he was dead, I guess they didn't test him for it. But it was clear during the autopsy that he hadn't drank any water for some period of time, and the people he was living with also said he hadn't eaten or drinking in some time. So possibly what happened was he became sick, possibly with malaria, and decided to dry fast to cure it, and he ended up dying. Now there are some reasons that fasting may not be a good treatment for any parasites, whether it's intestinal parasite like roundworms or a blood parasite like malaria. One reason is because parasites are specifically designed to continue feeding off the host until the host dies. They're not really designed so much to kill the host. Basically, a good parasite never kills the host. A bad parasite does kill the host, and sometimes the parasite dies inside the host after the host dies, but usually the host dies first and the parasite dies second. The thing about intestinal parasites is they don't stop eating when you stop eating. You're not starving them by not eating food, right? They just start eating you, right? They start burrowing more into your intestines and organs and eating more of you, and you don't give them food. So that's why you're going to die before the parasites die. They have a never-ending source of food. You're an idiot to think that you're starving them. And this similar thing with blood parasites. You're never not going to have blood until after you've died and your body has already decomposed. So if you have a blood parasite and you think that just fasting is going to get rid of them, maybe dry fasting will increase your immune system, improve your immune system to the point where you can actually defeat the blood parasite. But more often than not, that's just not going to happen. And you're going to die, and the parasites are still going to be feeding on your blood after you die for maybe a couple days. And then finally they die. Now, what I think fasting can be good for is cleaning your body and improving your immune system to the point that when you do get parasites, they don't necessarily take such a foothold in your body, right? You can clean your digestive tract, and you can improve your immune system. So neither intestinal parasites nor blood parasites actually get to such a huge population in your body that you're fighting off this illness. But I don't necessarily think that once you have the parasites, fasting is going to get rid of them. So I think it's possible that that guy who died of dry fasting in Africa, it's possible he just didn't really know that. And he thought, oh, dry fasting will eliminate this parasite that I have. And then he died because dry fasting didn't eliminate the parasite. And the parasite was probably, ironically, still consuming his blood for a couple days after he died. And the second case many of you know of more recently, Dr. Robert Lockhart. Well, I didn't know him personally. I did interact with him on Facebook, and a lot of people I know had met him at fruit festivals, and a lot of them said, oh, the guy always looked like he could use a glass of water. He was a heavy promoter of dry fasting and just not drinking any water in general, getting all of your fluid from juicy fruits and things like that, which maybe sounds good in theory, but in practice, a lot of times I haven't seen it work out. Anyways, after he died, all the raw vegan, fruitarian, dry fasters on the internet were just like, well, it wasn't the dry fasting that killed him. It was the antibiotics they gave him at the hospital. So what happened was, his health kind of went downhill really quickly. He had some kind of infection in his lungs, some tropical lung infection thing. I don't remember what it's called. And then his organs kind of shut down, and he was kind of unconscious. And anyways, if you know what that guy's about, someone like that doesn't just go to the hospital willy-nilly, Obviously, he was desperate. It was his last straw. He knew if he stayed at his house, he was going to die. So he agreed to go to the hospital. And at some point during his hospital stay, it got worse and worse. He went into a coma. At some point, antibiotics were given to try to kill off this lung infection that was slowly killing him. And he died. And the antibiotics were probably very harsh on his 75-year-old system. But it's also very harsh on your 75-year-old system. Dry fasting and doing intermittent dry fasting for 10 years. And possibly doing it a bit too heavy, a bit too irresponsibly, taking it a bit too far. That may have been what done it for him. So if you say that antibiotics were what killed him, then you're kind of like those people who see someone go to the hospital and they die of a heart attack, and then after they die, they test them for COVID-19. and the doctor is like, oh, COVID-19 on the death certificate. And there was recently some data on the CDC website that showed that something like over 90% of deaths, COVID reported deaths in the U.S. actually had underlying comorbidities that were more likely the actual cause of death. Anyways, don't be like those people. His kidneys were a bit smaller than normal, which was genetic, and then also his organs and his kidneys were just operating at lower function than normal, which were obviously due to his lifestyle over the last 10 years. Everyone thought he was living the most healthy lifestyle possible due to his young appearance and his physical activity. But the inside is what really matters, and the inside was not operating as it should have been. The inside just shut down and put him in a coma and sent him to the hospital. So were the antibiotics the last straw, like the last nail in the coffin? Possibly, but to say that those were what killed him, that's just stupid. Anyways, so I started reading this book called The Phoenix Protocol by August Dunning, and he's a NASA, what is he? He's a former NASA Space Station Ops System engineer, chemist, and physicist. He's an extremely intelligent man. He's an actual scientist. So in his book he cites a lot of studies and reference materials, and it really gets into like the cellular biology behind dry fasting. And after reading this book, I was convinced enough to kind of give it a try and think that possibly it can be done responsibly. One of the interesting things I noticed in this book, it kind of tears apart the common perception in the raw vegan internet world, in that water fasting is like the first step, and then dry fasting is like the second step. And I know this one guy a while ago, last year, he went through a phase of incessantly posting things like, if you still get an ounce of detox in water fast, you're not ready for dry fasting. Like, the raw food world is full of people like shooting for dry fasting. They still have work to do on water fasting, that kind of thing. Well, this book actually points to a lot of evidence that water fasting is actually bad and dry fasting is actually good. One of the reasons is that water fasting and results in too much muscle loss, and that dry fasting almost right away goes into the body harvesting fat cells for water and energy and not muscle cells. So you get a lot less muscle loss, almost no muscle loss in dry fasting. A 30-day water fast is going to cause significant muscle loss. And since a lot of toxins are stored in the fat, the dry fasting is going to eliminate a lot more toxins. Also, there's a lot of cellular processes that dry fasting enables. So obviously the most important thing is that the thirst triggers the production of endogenous water from within the body, so it starts breaking down fat cells and releasing the massive amount of water stored within fat cells to hydrate the body. That's why you don't die after not drinking water for 2 days, as we're commonly led to believe when children, right? They teach us in the Boy Scouts 2 days without water, 2 weeks without food, and you die, right? Neither of those things are true, but I'm sure a typical person on the standard American diet with diabetes and heart disease drinking Coca-Cola every day, if they didn't drink any liquids or solids for 2 days, they would almost definitely die. So there is some truth in that, just not for us. But the other cellular processes involve things like breaking down senescent or aging cells that don't really produce anymore, breaking down toxic cells, removing toxins from cells. The body can kind of turn into a furnace and just destroy things. As well as after a few days, like stem cells start to be used to repair tissue when normally they aren't, except in severe cases. So there's really a lot of great things that happen within the body. So I would encourage you to check out this book. It's only like $8 or $10 on Amazon. Unfortunately, the cover seems to be like this angelic being with Jeffrey Epstein's face photoshopped onto it, and I'm not sure why they chose that as the cover, and it's a bit pixelated. I feel like this guy, this NASA scientist, probably has a great pension from NASA, and he could probably afford to pay like $12 to somebody on Fiverr to design a better, higher resolution, less pixelated book cover. But maybe he was trying to do this on a really low budget so he could sell it for $8 on Amazon. So anyways, check out the book. It's really scientific-y. Like, it's got a lot of really detailed description of cell biology, which might be difficult for some people to understand, but it also explains the basics really, really well. So I used to be of the belief that maybe dry fasting was helpful, but definitely you should not do it unless you've done a 30-day water fast first, or done your time on water fasting. Now I no longer believe that's the case. I don't think dry fasting is like the next step up from water fasting. I think it's perhaps a superior alternative to water fasting, but I do think it has to be done responsibly, because I think you can die a lot easier on dry fasting than you can on water fasting, like the 2 people I know that died from it. So you just got to be careful. Oh, one more thing I forgot to mention about this book. Actually, one of the primary motivators the guy gives for dry fasting in this book is rapid healing and radical life extension. So the radical life extension part is where he talks about the possibility of reversing aging and slowing aging, the cellular aging process being slowed or totally eliminated through dry fasting and certain nutritional protocols. Another good reason to check out the book for those of you who are interested in longevity. So I hope you all enjoyed my thoughts on this subject, and have a great day. And make sure you subscribe to my channel and check out AmazonFruitFestival.com. The Amazon Fruit Festival is happening from January 17 to 23, 2021. So very soon, just a few months. And you can also check out FruitHavenEcoVillage.com, TerraFruitis.com, and some other websites that I might link below the video.